Hello and welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast. I am Kurt. Tonight we are going to discuss a whole bunch of shit, but mostly we're going to talk about the difference between role R-O-L-E and role R-O-L-L playing.
Yep, that's the plan.
Because spelling shit is super entertaining on stream.
And so is watching people eat.
Yeah. It's super good. I swear to God, if you have an open mic with while you eat a plum or something, I will cut you out of this call. I'll just put a picture. I'll put that unicorn out, and that'll just be you. You'll be the unicorn, and we'll ask you questions and be like, he's not very talkative tonight.
What's with the silent unicorn?
Yeah, it's strange.
I'm gonna Google the YouTube clip and share my screen of Nicolas Cage and Con Air, where he's like, "I could eat a peach for hours."
Anyway, good evening. Hello.
Good evening, friends.
Hello.
This is, like I said, this is the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast. We are excited to talk to you this evening. I think our introduction is first, so I'm gonna introduce our lovely cast here. Right below me is Oreztez.
Yeah.
How you doing, Oreztez?
I'm tired. I've only
Tired.
had 2 5 hours and 1 rock star today, so I'm like falling asleep.
Oh yeah, that's tired in French too.
I'm tired.
That's not what you want.
Late
Go ahead and take it. Fire the missiles.
Fire the missiles!
Well, how about Gidget? How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I think that having evening casts is probably a really bad idea because we seem to be extra silly and
Well,
a little more
fun
drinking.
fun of evening cast is it gets to involve alcohol
that is
without
very
being
true.
sad.
Cheers, right?
The morning
That's
cast
what
can
I said.
involve alcohol, but it's not as sad.
I guess the benefit of me being on the East Coast is it's afternoon when we
You could drink in every cast.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
going to start.
Well,
That's where you guys are.
Just get to drinking.
mimosas and Bloody Marys are the anytime
Oh, yeah.
drinks.
Yeah.
That's true.
Speaking of drinking in the East Coast, how are you tonight, Handor?
I'm doing very well. I'm a little wet, but other than that, doing very well.
And adding that officially to the Handor soundboard.
Doing well. I'm a little wet. Good times.
We don't need any context more than that.
Nope.
Just roll.
Nope.
I'm not
Knightson, how are
giving
you
any.
feeling? Are you high and dry, or what's going on?
Doing well. Not as well as some people, I guess, but I'll manage.
Not
Yeah.
quite wet. He's moist.
Yeah.
Moist.
Little-
Oh, you're gonna make us
damp.
lose viewers. Let's not say that word.
Well, yeah. Thank you, everybody who's hanging out with us tonight. Knightson, do you have any announcements for us?
So we have 2 announcements. First of which is our weekly game thingamajigger that we're running.
Video
We,
game?
Our
Yeah.
Sunday game nights?
Sunday game nights. That's it. I am
marketing,
very
man. Come on.
marketing. Yeah. We are running per request. Sexy Brutal.
Woohoo!
Yes.
By fan request.
Which I can only guess by the name is about brutal sex.
You might be disappointed.
Oh, well,
That name.
surprise.
Yeah. The name from the 10 seconds I spent looking at the Steam video was not indicative of any content in it whatsoever.
Good times.
But we will be playing that all together tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gaming by council.
Good old
Woo.
couch co-op. What else we got?
And then on the 14th of July, so 3 weeks away, we are running our episode 4 of Dungeon World.
Oh,
Yay!
shit.
Yeah, we're already up to episode 4. So, hooray.
It's awesome.
Not more than one of us isn't dead. I'm not going to let anyone know.
You'll have to go back and catch up.
I'm just going to say that someone in this call wasn't there. So
That's
it might be a
true.
mystery to them.
That's true. Oh, excuse me.
I'm.
Did you
I
go
mean-
back and watch the episode at the very least?
I have not watched it yet because I was I told you I had a bad
You were real damp this week.
You're real damp this week.
Yeah.
I would say maybe you don't need to go back and listen to it.
I mean,
Really.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was.
I would say-
I'm pretty happy with that episode. That was a fine bit of gaming. If I don't say so myself.
I
Yeah.
concur with that statement.
I would
Will it
be
only
okay with-
compound to my week?
I mean, we didn't kill you or anything.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not-
I didn't
Or
kill you.
is he? Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
I'm so confused. I'm watching it tonight when we
Well,
finish.
you in the audience should go back and catch up so that on July 14th, when we play our next episode, we all know what's going on, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. So, what is everybody excited about?
You're doing a good Julie Chen over there. I'm really feeling it.
Thanks, Julie Chen.
Who's that?
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Google Julie Chen. She's awesome.
She
I
asks
mean,
all the questions
Like,
on the talk.
Should I turn off safe search?
No, it's not like that.
You know, it's more like John Oliver pointing out Julie Chen's role in their show, which I feel camaraderie to.
Her inflection when she announces like topics is so great because she'll say something like tomatoes. Will they kill you? Like it's very much like that.
So excitement.
Throw it.
Do you have it about anything?
Next up.
Well, I'm kind of excited about the premise of Killer Tomatoes.
I'm also interested in our show doc that seems to just say "ow."
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Who is
Somebody may have been.
Who is hurting our docs?
Someone maybe have been in pain when they were writing our show
Help!
doc.
I'm trapped. They won't stop stabbing me with bullet points.
Well, I will start with what we're excited about. I have not been paying much to the E3 announcements, and I, night before last, sat down and started going through some of the game releases. And one that I found very interesting was the game We Happy Few.
Why does that sound familiar to me?
I just saw the box for that at GameStop a little while ago today.
I think it's kind of like a rehash.
It is, and it's supposed to be like it's set in the 1960s England. There's like a drug kind of thing that's making people act crazy.
This. Yep.
The drug is called Joy, and it's kind of a mystery game. Kind of feels like BioShock a little bit in the way the art
Very,
is.
very,
And
very heavily
I loved BioShock, so I'm very excited. This releases, it's in beta right now, and it releases on August 10th. So that is something coming up that I'm very excited to play.
Yeah, there was some early beta for it. Geez, I want to say as long as almost a year ago, I saw people playing. So it is, it's like, yeah, I had the same impression. Very, very BioShock feel to it.
Yeah, the beta
Looks
opened.
interesting.
The beta opened in July of 2016, and so they've been working on kind of
perfecting
things for the last 2 years almost, and the actual full release is going to be in August. So that is the thing that I'm super excited about.
Did you guys mention last week Division 2?
Oh God, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
because that would be
some people brought that up.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the ones I'm super excited
Well,
about.
based on our previous discussion of betas, I'm always excited to see a long-standing beta actually release, and I hope it goes well for them.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, I'm a little scared because it's releasing in August, right up on top of when the WoW expansion is going to release. So, as far as my personal time, which is very limited for video game playing, it's going to be hard to kind of split that. But yeah, I'm very excited for it, and I will definitely be buying it, playing it, and updating you guys on whether I enjoy it or not.
Good deal.
Something else that I'm pretty excited about is the Critical Role. I don't know if anybody follows Critical Role, but they had an announcement that they are starting their own channel, and they are going to be the sole owners, creator-owned content.
Yep.
Which is awesome. It sounds like the Critical Role episodes are still going to be run through Alpha and Geek and Sundry and all that, but all of their new shows are going to be over on critroll.com. And please give us a Critical Role animated series where they voice act their own characters.
Oh god, I want that so much.
Because that D&D Beyond cartoon like commercial that was like a minute or 40 seconds long or whatever was.
And if you haven't seen it, go look it up
D&D.
when you're done watching this because
you should
it's
post
amazing.
a link. Post a link to that. Let's post a link to that before we upload to the old YouTubes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll share a
definitely.
link to Crit Roll in that.
I actually am I talking about the same thing? I'm a total scrub when it comes to the RPG. I've watched a lot of it off of Geek and Sundry, but did they stream the other night? A dude with long hair was the DM.
Matt Mercer.
That sounds like Matt Mercer.
That sounds like Matt Mercer.
That's Matt Mercer.
And they were.
Was it Thursday?
My whole week is all.
So they stream every
into one day.
Thursday night on Geek and Sundry.
It might have
and
been Thursday
This
night.
is free advertising, by the way.
The GM
Was
is
it?
Matt Mercer.
Not that the 37 followers up there gave any inclination that we have advertisers, but
No, we don't.
I figured I should mention it.
But yes,
Was it on
Heavy
Twitch,
Metal
though?
Jess. Heavy Metal Jess said, "About time, hooray!" And we completely agree. I
Yeah.
think it's awesome that they're getting their own channel and they're going to be creating new content. So yeah. And Matt, I think you are talking about Critical Role.
It was on. I think it was on Twitch Thursday.
Yeah, that's Critical Role.
That's Critical Role.
Okay. Oh, it was so good.
It is
It
really
was
good.
so good.
No spoilers though, because Kurt and I
I'm not saying
are
anything.
about like 4 weeks behind.
Yeah.
Because we've just been
Okay.
really busy, but yeah, we're very excited for them and their move and everything that's going on with them. And
That's
we
really cool.
just got our comic book because they've been putting out a comic book of the like original tale of stuff that happened to them kind of before the stream started, and so we just got our comic book in and we've been reading that.
Yeah,
And
it's nice. It's like a hardback. What do they call it? A trade when they have all the books together as one.
yeah, it's like the first
Oh.
six of they
Very
turned
cool.
it into a comic book, and it's really neat. It's like the origin story of how they formed their original campaign. So I'm really enjoying consuming that currently.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's
Yeah.
been really fun.
So something else that's going on right now is the Steam Summer Sale, which sometimes is exciting and sometimes is kind of meh. Have you guys found anything that you've bought or you're excited is on sale or anything like that?
I have been looking at Vermintide and deciding if $20 is cheap enough, or Vermintide 2.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I would have to buy 4 copies of it.
Right.
So what is Vermintide?
It is a first-person RPG fantasy beat 'em up with
It's
powers
Warhammer,
and stuff
right?
like that.
Warhammer Fantasy.
It's in the Warhammer universe, but the game basically plays like Left 4 Dead,
Oh, okay.
Hand over there eating.
but you have superpowers.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that sounds right up our group's
Well,
alley of
and-
type of gaming we do.
I think
so.
the thing that's so cool about it is it has Twitch integration. So like you can.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you can set it up so people in your chat can give you like health potions, or basically when loot drops, the people in chat decide who gets the loot. And when new mobs are gonna spawn, the people in chat decide what your spawn is gonna be. And so like if chat's feeling like an asshole, they'll funnel all the health potions to the guy with all the health. To the person who doesn't need it.
Very nice.
I watched a 3-person stream of it where they were playing 3 streams. So that could be that could be a cool thing to try out.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mentioned this earlier to you guys off stream, but I'm kind of excited that Friday the 13th, the game is on sale because $40 for that game seemed like a lot of dollary dues. But $20 for it seems like a good amount for a game that we'll probably play a couple times. And definitely something that I'd like for us to play on our Sunday night game night. So I'm excited that that's on sale.
Oh yeah.
So we can actually play
Yeah.
it.
Have they added the capacity to have your own so you're not having to group up the randoms?
No idea, to be honest. All I know that they've added, because I just stumbled upon it, is they did add a single player mode where you just play Jason and run around, kill camp counselors with little like achievements. It's like throw this Jimmy into the fire or drown Susie in the lake kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is they did custom like kill animations for all these special achievements.
Right.
So it definitely is.
It'd be a great way to go through and learn all of the, like, so that when you go play with other people, you'll know all of the specific unique kill animations.
But on the same note, Dead by Daylight or whatever it is $10, which is basically the same game, except you have not just Jason. You literally have a cast of, I think they're up to like 10 or 20 different monsters now, including Freddy, Jigsaw.
Yep.
Is
that the one that's you have to power up the generators? And
that's the downside of the game part of it. Like the Survivors game is not as exciting. There's less to do.
Right.
But there's a lot more variation in what's going on from match to match because of the different killers.
Right. Something else I'm excited that's on sale is the Talos Principle, which Nightson and I have a huge love for like puzzle games and that kind of thing, and it's kind of along the lines of The Witness and that kind of puzzle game, but it's on sale for 80% off, so it's $8 dues, and I'm very excited about that. So.
That's an appropriate amount of dollar dues.
A game that's not on sale that really needs to be pretty soon, in my opinion, is Ascent Infinite Realms. It's not even on Steam. It's a steampunk MMO.
Oh, nice.
That just looks really cool, and I really want to play it, and I signed up for the beta, but I have no idea when it's coming out.
Gotcha.
Very cool.
It looks super cool. We should all play it when it comes out.
Sounds lame.
Yeah.
You're lame.
Well, does anybody have anything else that they're excited about? So, what about what we've been playing recently?
Well, I ran a game today for JackerCon, which is an online convention, like fan created convention around in the Happy Jacks community. So I've been fairly involved with that project lately. Myself and Michael Kent and DT Pints have put a lot of effort into getting JackerCon back up and running again. So I ran a game this morning. It's the same game that I ran at Orcon in the convention in LA. It is a Savage Worlds setting I'm working on called Nuclear Night School. I'm not 100% set on the title yet, but it went really well. The setting is basically 1980s with magic. So magic exists and is completely mundane. Everyone just uses it as like part of their daily life. And anybody can do magic, but it's kind of complicated, so not everyone does. Most people experience magic through the way we experience like electricity, through the conveniences it gives us, right? And the sort of like tempo and theme of the setting is very much like the romanticized 80s, like somewhere between Gem and the Holograms and Atomic Blonde, like that everybody's like the dress, the clothes are all crazy, neon everywhere. Like it's very much that what we remember the 80s being like, and not what they were.
Heavy Metal Jess jumped in and said thanks for working on JackerCon, Kurt.
Oh yeah. I hope you get to play some games. It's been a fun project. Honestly, there's probably still more we can do to make the site really encourage gaming, but I'm excited about it. It's been really fun. Go on.
So question, as one of your quote unquote beta testers for your Nuclear Night School.
Yeah.
Ooh, I played in that too.
Yeah. I got a question for you, namely in the game you ran this morning and your Oricon game, because I forgot to ask you when you ran it.
Yeah.
Did your players have as much trouble with flashlights?
So, this time...
Or were you more giving and just saying they're in your character sheet, enjoy?
Yeah, so basically I said, this time, the players actually asked me before I got to flashlights. They were like, all right, what are the trappings? How do we do this? They were like, "Is it wands? Like, what are the foci in this game?" And I was like, "Oh, it's actually flashlights, which are called mage lights, and they look like those newer fluorescent bulbs, where it's basically a neon bulb, and they're different color, all this stuff, right?" And they were like, "Sweet, mine looks like this," and they started describing their mage lights, and I was like, fuck it. Like, I just let them have them, and I basically said, there's really fancy ones, and then there's kind of shitty ones. If you have a really fancy one, tell me why. And everyone was like, "Nope, mine is shitty." It's like, great, sounds good. So nobody failed their magecraft rolls, so they didn't like break them, which is the downside to using a shitty one. But
because I definitely remember that being a pain in the ass when we played.
Yeah, because nobody
not do anything like that, and so we got one that we found, and we only had one person who could cast spells, even though the big mechanic is everyone has their own magic.
Right. They actually did, and so I gave more attention to the role that light plays in Magic up top. And so, like, you need light to cast spells, and most lights in people's houses are different colors. They're not white because it's really difficult to make white light, because the person who makes a mage light, their emotions go into the process of this alchemical process of making a mage light. And so if they're a little sad, they get a blue light, and if they're a little pissed, they get a red light. And so it's really rare to have pure white light, and so most places have different colored lights. And so anytime they would go somewhere, they'd be like, "Oh, what colors are the lights?" And then they would just cast spells of that color.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they were really like cognizant of their surroundings, which I thought was really cool, because they were, they got into somebody's house and it was like, "Oh, well, what color are the lights in this house?" And I was like, "I think she'd have yellow lights," and they were like, "Okay, cool." And so they started casting yellow spells, right? So it was kind of neat to see that. And then, of course, the mage had his red mage light, so when he wanted to cast his fire spells, he could. But for the most part, they used ambient lighting.
None of this sounds familiar. I don't think I played in that game.
No, I don't think you did.
I don't think you did.
You
weren't free, or I think it was like a last minute thing. But
Nightson and I, and then there were like 3 other players
Preston
that were part of a different gaming group
else?
that we play with sometimes came in and
You
participated
invited
in that.
the outsiders, and I said no.
But I mean, I think we should probably talk about cons and how to prep for those in like a future role-playing episode. But one comment I'd like to say definitely is that beta testing your game for a con is super important, because the things that Kurt kind of saw as like, oh, they stumbled over this, or this wasn't clear enough, or whatever, just between the beta test and the Oricon game, he was able to make changes. And then again, between Oricon and this game, he was even able to make even more changes and make things even more clear for the second run that he did of it, or I guess third run that you did of it. So that's why beta testing is so important before you run a game at a con, because then you're able to kind of work out the kinks and make sure that your players are going to have maximum fun.
Yeah, but it was really kind of neat to see. And I also had less players today. I had 3 players. The first game I had 5, the second game I had 4, and today I had 3. So it was kind of interesting to see how, and we actually went over with less players, which was interesting. But it was kind of neat to see how the game changed with the fewer players, because one of the things that I did with this game is scenes. I have some scenes sort of prepped, but then a lot of the details of those scenes come from the characters' bonds when they make their character, and because everyone is bonded to an NPC that they're kind of like they'll do anything for, and and so I wanted to make sure that those got worked in, and so I have these scenes that are sort of frameworks that I can stick those NPCs into based on what they create, and so that's been kind of one of the more fun challenges with this scenario is working everyone's bonds and what they create on the fly into those scenes, and altering those scenes so that they fit with the kind of the player input, and that's been really fun.
Well, and for me, like, having been in the beta test and then hearing all the players so playing in the beta test and then hearing the players talk about how that their own personal bonds. So in our game, it was like someone's mom and someone's dad and someone's teacher, and then in the next game it was my girlfriend and my best friend, and so the bonds are like different people for whatever group of players there are. But Kurt, as the GM, is still able to work those characters into the game that he wrote and the narrative that he wrote, and still have it all kind of mesh together kind of seamlessly and make it seem like that these characters were always written into this game for these purposes. And so, I mean, personally, that's something that I really loved about the way Kurt wrote this adventure and wrote these bonds, that he was able to take them and work them into the plot and make it feel very cohesive, even though big chunks of it were pre-written, but you were still able to work in these NPC non-player characters that we all just kind of made up on the fly.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of PBTA elements and worked them into this, like the
PBTA,
yeah, the Powered by the Apocalypse elements, with like connections between the characters and things like that. And so that was one of the things I really wanted to bring over, is making sure that character choices at their onset mattered. But yeah, so it's been a fun project and a fun experiment. I think I'm gonna use a lot of that in my writing of adventures to come and how I structure things. So
Okay.
In the future, can we? Hey.
No, go ahead.
Whoa.
I'm just moving it all to the same page. It's okay, man. I'm messing with the show notes.
Is it possible that in the future sometime we could Kurt, you could try to write a Back to the Future themed RPG, and we just like play that out, see how?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's got to be one. I mean, I'll Google it and see if one exists. But if nothing exists, we can definitely try to make something.
Do you specifically mean in that universe, or one involving time travel?
Yeah,
because I literally just ran a time travel where they went to the western a western town when we went to Westworld Con.
I want Doc Brown. I want Marty McFly.
So you want to play canon characters and go on their adventures?
Well, do you want to play those iconic characters, or do you just want them in the world and you could be like, random guy at the inn, number 2?
Either one of those would work, honestly. It's just, I love either like Back to the Future or like Doogie Howser.
Dude, I love time travel.
Actually, okay, hold on.
If you're gonna run us a Back to the Future game right now, I'm calling dibs on Einstein.
I picked up the Apocalypse World bundle a couple weeks ago, and it came with a game called The Ward, which is specifically meant for playing television medical dramas. So there you go.
Dude. Yes.
Nice. Very nice.
So
I love Doogie.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I think
that's good.
We've been talking about role-playing, so it's time to move into our spotlight topic. Last week, we had our first episode of
Intro to
Role-Playing. Our first episode, we talked a lot about what role-playing is, different kinds of systems, why you would play role-playing, how you fit into a role-playing group. And that was all last week's. And a lot of things we were talking about, we kept saying the difference between role-playing, R-O-L-E, like role-playing, and R-O-L-L, like rolling dice. And so we wanted to do a full episode on the difference between the two, between the mechanics of a game where you're rolling the dice and maybe you're a min-maxer, Restez, maybe you're a rules lawyer, whatever that part of role-playing that you enjoy, or maybe it's role-playing, it's the improvisation, it's the acting, and that's the part. And those are the two kind of sides. Acting. Those are the two sides to role-playing games. It's rolling dice and the rules and the improv part of it. And so we want to kind of talk about what those are.
Well, whoever's crunching some plastic, please stop that. But
no, you can't make me.
What
I don't
is
need my
that?
hands to crunch plastic.
Oh, okay. I'm
like, well, hands up. Didn't do it.
Hands up, everybody. What are you doing? All right. This is definitely a common thing I hear when talking about the different types of role playing. ROLE playing or ROLL playing. I wrote some descriptions. Actually, I wrote one and Reztez wrote the other, so I'll read mine and he can read his. So ROLE playing describes a focus on character drama and making choices as the character you are portraying.
Okay.
That's you, Orestez.
Orestez, you're up.
Oh, I'm supposed to read the other part? Nobody told me about this.
I just said it right now.
I have to. I don't listen.
Do you not have it open? Because I
want me to
read
read it
to you.
No. No.
I mean, it was your words.
Role playing. Well, you changed my words because my description was originally very succinct and it talked about the art of min-maxing.
That is true. I did alter your words. I'm sorry in this document.
Role playing, ROLL in bold, role, describes a focus on optimizing or min-maxing a few attributes on your sheet to create a character that is very specialized or focused on a particular game mechanic.
So you can see my bias in how I've edited your...
And so, I mean, Kurt posted this topic on Twitter and on Facebook to kind of get a dialogue started on this. And I think there were a lot of different people who had very different views of what ROLL role-playing, when you roll dice, the mechanics part of a game, what that entails, whether it's min-maxing your character to optimize it for what it can possibly be, or being the rules lawyer who sits at the table and every time something happens goes, no, this is what the rules say and this is how we're supposed to handle this situation. And I know that you, Orestez, kind of had a different view on that they aren't the same thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I can really only speak from personal experience. And for me personally, I will admit that I am an optimizer, a min-maxer. But I don't really feel like I'm much of a rules lawyer because I don't really care about... Like, I'm okay with the rules being changed by the GM to fit the flow of the story and all this stuff. So I don't really think of myself as like a rules lawyer per se, but I definitely do like knowing the rules to know how to exploit them to make my character the best that it can be at whatever it is I think it needs to be doing.
Or other people's characters at the table.
Well, I like to optimize support. So if you're not awesome enough, I think you should be more awesome.
Well, I've got to take that as a compliment for my characters because typically you make my characters do things better. So I'll take that I'm good at playing my characters.
So one thing I'd like to interject is these aren't necessarily mutually exclusive concepts. Because I'll be honest, I don't feel that role playing or role ROLL is about min-max. I think it's more about your minute-to-minute decisions. Do you make decisions based on who you are, the character you're portraying, who you've developed the story, or do you make decisions based on mechanics or what the optimal solution is?
Oh yeah.
If you are, well, we could either we're talking to these bandits. Well, we could let them go and, maybe they'll become better people. We want to encourage them to live their lives better. Or we can stab them and get their loot and XP. That is a very clear definition between role and role.
Right.
True.
Yeah, but I feel like it doesn't really matter if you're a thespian or a min-maxer. If you're a murder hobo, you're a murder hobo.
but that I feel is the difference between doing the mechanics role playing versus the acting ROLE.
So
because I feel you could easily do a optimized character and still make it an interesting and well acted character that fits into a world, makes sense, and has his own motivations and does things like that. Some of my favorite characters I've ever done were very heavily mechanics focused, but it came from asking the question of why are these people do these particular things. Created a very interesting character.
Yeah, like the D&D 3.5 Book of Exalted Deeds Diplomancer.
No, that is an ROLL.
That is
but
definitely
you can do
an
both.
ROLL.
You don't actually make any ROLLs because hey, I'm going to talk to that guy right there. The GM just pulls out the epic level handbook and they're like, okay, what happens when you get a 60 plus on a take 10 of diplomacy with this NPC. Oh, he's a fanatic. You got to follow her.
Well, I mean, and that is also a way to delineate, right? When you get into a situation where you can either talk to the NPC as your character, or say, well, I don't want to do that. Can't I just roll my persuasion and move on? That's a difference, right? Like, and I don't mean it doesn't have to be first person, but the difference between describing the scene and being interested in what kind of story flows from that versus can't I just roll my dice and get on with it? That's also a way to like delineate between ROLE and ROLL, because you're not as interested as portraying the role, right? You're not as interested as portraying that character. You're more interested in engaging the mechanics and gaining your reward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my problem with that type of situation is the reason why I don't make characters that are kind of focused on diplomacy and persuasion and bluff and all that kind of stuff is because personally, I don't want to be the type of min-maxer who's like, okay, I'm going to diplomatize with that guy. Here's my role. Be done with it. Like, if I'm going to try to talk to an NPC, I would like to try to talk to an NPC in character. But me as a player am not good enough. I'm not good enough at the talky bits to be like, my personal skill does not equate to a +20 in diplomacy.
Right.
Right.
I just think that's weird for me to be like, you let me in that building, roll 35. Because it's like my portrayal does not equal what that role should be. Now, I'm not also saying that in real life, I'm proficient at throwing fireballs. But
Well, this is something that often comes up in the intelligence discussion.
Right.
Like, as far as like solving puzzles or knowing things, my 20 intelligence wizard is going to be a damn much better at figuring out this shit than I would be.
Oh yeah.
I think
that I have to deal with my personal player intelligence to portray this character, but it's not physically possible.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I would say the opposite is true too. I mean, if you're playing a character who has very low intelligence and you're supposed to be playing kind of a dumb character, but you as a person are really good at puzzles and really good at solving mysteries, it's very hard to kind of not metagame it and figure out the puzzle, but sit there and let your character intelligence, the stat on your sheet, dictate how you're going to respond to the puzzle or the situation.
yeah,
Either way, I think it's just as difficult.
you can pretend to be dumb. It's really hard
Maybe
to
you
pretend to be
can.
smarter than you are.
Right. I have seen, this is getting a little off, but I have seen some interesting mechanics that help a smart player be more, help a player portray a smart character. Where, like, when you walk into a room, that player gets to just decide something about the scene, right? Like, or if you're in a puzzle, whatever the first thing you say is the first part of the puzzle. Like, that is now. And so there's things like that let you sort of establish stuff, which says, oh, my character just knows, so whatever I say is correct.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that, and this has gone on as long as I've been playing these games, is all your physical stats, no, you just roll those out. Those are the way it's supposed to be. But any of your mental stats, your intelligence, your wisdom, your charisma, to a lesser extent wisdom, because that's usually about noticing or saving throws or whatnot, so those are more rolly stats.
Stuff,
but it's always been the person who's rolling those dice. No, you are dealing with your proficiency in talking or your knowledge of puzzles and whatnot. It's never about the, and it's almost a stigma against it.
That is, I mean, that's true. I have played, and I'll get to kind of the result of the several conversations I had on Facebook and Twitter and stuff about this topic, but I have played characters where optimizing the character helped me ROLE play the character. I was playing a gnome bard, obviously, who was like, would just lie about anything. It didn't matter. We met someone who was supposed to be super powerful. That was like, it was only women were allowed in the village, And I was like, "Oh, how dare you! I am a female, and so are my friends." Like,
I remember that.
And then like got like 45 bluff or whatever, right? Because I had min-maxed the shit out of my bluff skill. And so, but the character, but I did the whole scene, and then the GM looked at me like, "You're full of shit," and I was like, "No, I'm not," and like threw the die. And so like it helped enforce the character I wanted to play, but I don't think it wasn't like, oh, I tell him I'm this, right? But I did the whole scene. Like, we had the whole scene where we had the back and forth in character, and then it came time to, like, your bold-faced lie is obviously wrong, and I was like, no, it's not. Which was really fun. I mean, that was a time when min-maxing helped me ROLE play the character I wanted to play.
Well, if you're optimizing a character to ROLE play and you make your skills kind of go in line with that style, then that's what you've done both. You've double dipped.
Yeah.
Well, I think that as a group, we tend to sit somewhere between. Some of us lean a little heavier to one or the other, but we tend to sit in between, which is we want a character who's really good at the things it can do so that we can talk and act as the character that we're playing and feel comfortable that when we try to do the thing they're supposed to be good at, those dice roll are going to match, right? Mm-hmm. What we're trying to do in the scene, because our character is what is on the sheet, and what we're acting is what's on the sheet. And sometimes we try to do things that are out of what's on our character sheet and fail at them. But I feel like, we tend to, as the group with us, let the stats help us dictate how we're going to ROLE play the character that's in front of us.
Yeah.
That's why I always play Warlords. I don't have to do anything. I just pick which one of you is the best at doing the thing that needs to be done and make you do it.
Heavy Metal Jess in the chat says at one point she had played a character with 4 charisma and had trouble because she wanted to. I'm sorry, I just assumed Heavy Metal Jess's gender. They wanted to because they wanted to have they wanted to be able to talk as themselves, and they're very good at convincing people of things, but this character has 4 charisma. So now you're doing, like you said, with the low intelligence or the something like that, you're using your player intelligence where it's not supported on the stats. Which is just the same problem on the flip side.
Yeah, I think sometimes that can be really hard when you have a really high charisma and maybe you're not somebody who tends to like to embody like a sexy character or a character that's can talk to people easily, like Areztez was saying, like diplomatize with people and have all the words that you're supposed to say. And if you're not the type of person that is good at those kinds of things, but you wanted to play that kind of character, sometimes that can be the same disconnect as if you are good at talking to people but your stats don't support that as well. So that's kind of both sides of that same coin.
Yeah,
when it comes to that.
When I asked this question on Twitter and on several Discords that I'm in, I used more evocative language. I said, I think I said something like, what makes min-maxers and thespians so bad, or something like that, right? To kind of like push to try to get people to jump up and talk about it. Go ahead.
Well, let me throw in. So I can answer this. The key thing that drives people nuts about the thespian character is always the one who does it in cost of any capability in game. This is your character this is your pacifist. No combat stats in your dungeon crawl. Like, goddamn. Or not having any capability to provide anything in the group. They're just there to RP, and that's their day. They just want to sit there and talk to NPCs. And typically, a lot of the folks who do that are also pushing the I want all the limelight. I want to talk. I want this. Who cares about the other 5 people at the table? I'm the talky bits guy.
Right. And I think that don't save him. I think that is the problem, right? That's where the thespian gets the bad rap, because they're the what do they call it? Spotlight hog, right? They want the game to be about them. And they're going to get frustrated when there's a combat, or they're going to get pissy because they can't talk. But then the min-maxer has the same thing, right? Like the person who, the ROLL to an extreme, if someone's like, stop talking to my experience points type of player, they have the same problem, right? Where they get frustrated when someone wants to roleplay, or they like dismiss it out of hand as being silly and move on.
Ooh, can I jump in here?
Yeah.
I mean, that is my biggest difficulty with the rules lawyer or the min-maxer or the person who just loves the rules so much that it gets in the way of the storytelling part of it, because I think my biggest problem is when there is an opportunity to tell a story and we just kind of go, okay, well, the rules say we can brush right through this and keep moving on. Kurt and I had a very passionate conversation about the other night about role-playing and how a lot of times GMs, specifically in PBTA type games, Powered by the Apocalypse games, don't call me out, man. Then we're going to get a bunch of hate.
Send us your hate mail, please. We'll read it on the show.
I don't like them either.
Yes!
Share it on Facebook and Twitter.
It's
and
not
ask
that I
other
hate
people to send
you.
us
I'm
their hate
playing
mail.
Dungeon World on our stream. I obviously don't hate it that much. But the thing that I don't like is a lot of PBTA GMs.
Pixelscandal@gmail.com.
Savage World is a perfect system.
I disagree.
Okay, so finishing my thought is that they tend to jump from like the action to the action to the action, and where it's great to keep the momentum moving, what you lose is the story along the way. And me personally as a GM, what I do if, say, you're moving from one city to another, I don't like it when it's like, okay, you traveled for a day, you made camp, who's on what watch, roll for random encounters. That's not the kind of adventure, from point A to point B that I enjoy. I enjoy the part where you're walking down the path and you hear a woman screaming, and so you run off the path and there's somebody with an overturned cart that's being attacked by, wolves or whatever, and so you save her, and to be thanked, she gives you some cool magic item, or that you do have that attack in the middle of the night, but the reason you got attacked is because you were being followed by whatever your big bad is, and they caught up to you because you made camp for the night. Like, that's part of the storytelling, and if you play games where you just jump from action to action to action, you miss the story along the way. And I think that when you get too crunchy, you start to miss the story, and the story is the part that I find myself sitting back thinking about, oh, that game I really enjoyed was that one that had that really in-depth story with all these interesting things that happened to us along the way as we were doing the, big plot point campaign or whatever that they were doing in between. In between all of the important bits is the story.
What's
and
funny is
that's how I feel about it.
What's funny is I'm going to take this a step completely further out of character for me and say that beyond that, you're missing the interpersonal moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a definite failing of PBT in my. There's nothing to encourage it to happen.
It's definitely a failing of my GMing of it. And this is something I brought up when I was talking to Gidget about it. I feel like as I run PBTA, I tend to run it at like breakneck speeds because I'm trying to make sure that we're getting the moves in and doing calling for the rolls and things like that so we can see what those 6- results are going to be. But something that she pointed out is that you're right. We're losing those downtime moments where the characters can really like interact with each other.
And I'll be honest, most systems don't actually account for this in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of assumed that there's going to be some fluidity and it'll just happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you're always on we got to get to the next scene, we got to do the next objective, we got to go clear the next room, get the next piece of treasure, kill the next monster, there's very little time to have the interpersonal communication.
Yeah.
It's
a question.
Go
ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say one thing that I still don't know if I like it, but at least it's trying. Is the Savage Worlds? I don't know what they call it, but it's the whenever you're traveling,
interlude.
an
interlude.
Yeah, one random person tells a story.
Right.
And so even though there's not direct interaction, you're at least giving a player an opportunity to kind of expound on their character.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, and something that a question that Kurt posed to me the other day was, with our bonds in our Dungeon World game, how can he help us engage with our bonds more, which is basically written into that system, how to get the characters to have some interpersonal time together, right? And my pointing out to him was that, when you and I were on the roof and Forrest was sleeping off his hangover and 3-Fort wasn't there, that would have been a great time for you and I to discuss the secret that we have in common and what's going on. But because of the pacing of PBTA and Dungeon World, it needed to jump to some action. Otherwise, it didn't feel like the game would have been moving forward. But that would have been a really good moment for you and I to have some interpersonal kind of dialogue between the two of us. And so I think that's really where my problems with PBTA sits, is that it does kind of move you forward too fast, that it doesn't allow for that kind of interaction to happen.
And I mean, and that's not to say we've played. I think the PBTA games we've played are the worst offenders at this. We've played Dungeon World, Monster of the Week. Both of these are very go
Bedlam
kill
Hall.
the thing, go fight the stuff, go get the loot kind of stuff. We've played Blades in the Dark and some variations on Blades in the Dark, which are very procedural.
Mm-hmm.
Jump to the mission, get the mission done, find out the downtime. I think a lot of that sort of interpersonal stuff happens in the downtime in those kind of games, and we kind of brushed over that a lot just because we were learning the procedures. But there are a lot of PBTA games that specifically focus on interpersonal relationships, like games like Monster Hearts, where you're teenagers who are having trouble with their feelings. So literally the entire game is how you feel about each other. There are games like things like The Warren, which is it's what's the name of that book? It slipped my mind.
Watership Down.
So it's Watership Down, the game, right, where you play the bunnies. And honestly, I've had some pretty interesting roleplay moments in The Warren just as bunnies, because it doesn't focus so much on objectives. It focuses more on what your bunny wants to do and how they interact with the other bunnies.
Okay,
right?
but there's never going to be a game as good as Mook's, shout out to Mook, and his GURPS game that he ran. He's actually sick and not doing too well right now, so much love out to Mook right now. But there's no way any game could be ever as good as Mook's Watership Down game that he ran.
To be fair, though, you're talking about a game in GURPS run by Mook.
Right.
And Mook literally wrote the book on how to be a GURPS GM.
He literally wrote a book about GMing.
But that was
called How to Be a GURPS GM.
Right.
I've never had more fun RPing a bunny.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I could play a bunny in every game and I'd be very happy. So
I just wanted to get back to it. The interpersonal moments in PBTA, if they don't include me, I don't get experience for it, and I'm not really interested in that at all. So,
damn it!
Doesn't my character? Isn't that a lot of his thing is to resolve?
bonds.
Yeah.
Well, that's a thing in Dungeon World. A lot of people change the bonds mechanic because it's difficult to hit. It's hard to get the bonds to really resolve, because a lot of the bonds are written in such a way where you sort of, upon first reading, you build the character like, oh, this is the way we're going to feel about each other for the duration of the campaign, and you play the characters that way to the point where it's impossible to resolve those bonds.
Right.
Because then what? Right? Like,
Well,
I mean, if
right
someone's
now,
a thief and you feel like they don't understand, or you have to help them because they're a thief, you're not going to resolve that bond. They're not going to stop stealing.
Do not I was going to say, do not in the, I think it's OT, yeah? Do not in the chat says PBTA structure doesn't support party-based play, as well as it really makes for dynamic, independent character drama, which I completely agree with. I mean, independently, it makes for really interesting things, but as a party, it's really hard to, like you said, Orestes, you're not going to get any experience for me and Night Sun sitting there and RPing out some of our stuff. You're just over in the corner waiting for your turn to get to play the game.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And at the same time, my bonds with Handor's character is never going to go away as long as he misses games, and I steal stuff off of his sleeping body.
You're gonna have to watch that episode, man.
Yeah, man.
You understand that the reason my character exists and we know each other is because you stole from me, and I want to murder you. So while I was gone,
yeah,
you stole from me.
Yep.
I mean, eventually you could kill him, and that bond will resolve.
Yeah, it'll be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, the way I see it, you keep throwing me at bad guys, eventually you're going to hit one of them.
That's true.
Hopefully
Keep throwing him at enough bad guys, eventually he'll go squish.
That's going to be a thing. And one of these times, these bad guys are going to have, like...
So I have a question for you, Handor, as our sort of noob to RPGs.
Not sort of. Full.
Well, you're 2 episodes that you've played now.
Did we hit on anything tonight that, like, you didn't understand or you want us to expound on?
All of it? If we could just go over the whole thing again. No, I think there's a lot of verbiage, okay, that's tossed around that's going to be almost impossible to go back on. It's like,
Roleplaying.
Or since it said something with, I was making mental notes and
we gotta get you a buzzer, man.
Yeah, you gotta buzz us in.
I know. One of the ones that I did actually remember that I wanted to ask you if you could explain or expound upon, which is the don't speak to my experience. What type of player is that, and who?
Well, it kind of goes along with the term murder hobo, I think. It's the type
maybe that's what it was that he said, murder
right.
hobo.
And don't talk to my experience points. They're basically the same kind of player, which is I don't need to try to talk to the person in front of me, the NPC, the non-player character. If I kill them, they're just going to pop out experience point. You know, like in a video game, you kill something, it gives you XP, right?
Yeah. I mean,
and so it's the same type of thinking.
But it is a sliding scale because there is the don't talk to my experience points because they keep talking to the shopkeeper. Why don't we just murder the shopkeeper and rob his store?
Right.
But there's the other level of the thespian who goes too far. It's like, no, let's talk to the goblins. No, goblins are there to get stabbed. That's their whole lot in life.
I love
goblins don't deserve arms.
Goblins are the best.
They do not.
We should talk to the goblins.
Is it goblins? Goblins don't deserve arms?
This
goblins do not deserve arms.
It is goblins that don't deserve arms. Yeah.
Yes, but that was Dresden Files goblins, which are very different from D&D goblins.
That is very true.
Except not because I was terrible at playing them and you guys destroyed them every time anyways.
No, but I think a really good example is the home game that we played last week that we didn't talk about at all when we were talking about what we played recently, and I just remembered that we actually played an RPG this week. Yeah, right?
Dungeon Crawl.
Dungeon Crawl for the win. But when you're talking about like murder hoboing, it's basically you walk into a room, you see a thing, it's there, you kill it. Like you don't even take the time to try to talk to it.
It's got a red bar over its head. I know as a player I'm supposed to murder this to get XP and loot. And
so we were in a dungeon and there were 2 skeletons in front of us. Well, not skeletons. What were they, like dread whites or something? Which in the first room we saw them, I just Bobo dead.
Zombie things.
Fine. Second room,
White Walkers.
It basically
they're kind of like, I don't know, they're like ghost zombies. I don't know. So
in the first room, I just shot them both dead. Next room, let's go, because I was tired of being in the dungeon. Second room, it kind of went, huh? And I went, does this thing talk? And then it started talking to me, and so I talked to it.
All of the other ones tried to talk to you, BT dubs.
So I was
actually commented on
being a murder hobo because I wasn't trying to talk or engage with the things in the dungeon.
I think they said something like, "What are you doing here?" And then your response was 2 arrows to the face.
In my defense, my character is very against evil things, and undead is evil, so I had to kill them.
Yeah. Or things with 2 legs.
Yeah, justify it however you want.
Only things with 1 leg. Okay.
So my character would almost be borderline
murder hobo.
Murder hobo
against your own party members.
Well, here's the thing.
You are a little murder hobo-y, but that doesn't mean that you can't also talk to things. It's making that choice as a character that in this situation I'm going to kill everything, and maybe in a future situation I'm going to try to talk to something.
I think there's a difference between a gladiator and a murder hobo. Yeah. Just because your character, like in the world, cares about fighting things, does not mean you're a murder hobo. Well, the murder hobo just wants to kill stuff and take their loot. They're not concerned about the story repercussions of those actions.
Yeah. I would. Yeah, I would absolutely
give you. I'm going to give you right now a real quick lesson on how to power level in any tabletop sim you will ever play. All right, you come to ask for its name. If it has a name, it has a stat block. If it has a stat block, you can kill it. So as soon as you see someone starts talking, hey, what's that guy's name? And then you open fire, free XP.
And that's really when we say murder hobo or stop talking to my experience points. It's like, kind of like Night Sunset. If you're trying to talk to the evil thing in the dungeon that obviously you just need to kill, but you're trying to talk to it, then you're talking to the experience points, right? Sometimes talking to the experience points gets you things you need that you didn't realize you would get out of the thing because your initial instinct would be to just kill the undead, right? So you can make the choice not to kill the experience points, but sometimes it gets in the way of role-playing with dice.
Well, and technically, by the rules, most editions of D&D, you don't get the XP or anything if you bypass the encounter.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like, if you don't kill those goblins, you don't get the XP. And it took too long, so if you're playing it like a live play event or public play event where you're on a time frame, and if you don't finish, you don't get the cool loot or whatever. Like, I've played at Adventures League or... what is it? What's the name for it? Like shared play events at cons and things. Yeah, where if you don't finish the adventure in time, then you don't get the cool loot or whatever it is.
So you do try
and your
to just
bard
run
is sad
because
because they have to use some other instrument.
And so you do try to kill your way through it as fast as you possibly can because talking to it's going to take longer. But if you're not playing those kinds of games, if you're the type of people who like to role play, ROLE, and you like to be a thespian and engage with non-player characters, NPCs, then talking to the experience points is fine because you're not losing out on anything by talking to them. Mm-hmm. And in games like Dungeon World, where you don't get XP for killing something, or Savage Worlds, where you don't get XP for killing something, there's really no pro or con to talking to it or killing it, except what you're trying to get out of the storytelling part of that moment.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that it makes sense because my character does delve into that. He's very no nonsense, right? Mm-hmm. So he doesn't really want to do a lot of talking. He doesn't really want to give a lot of himself or break down those walls to anybody because of the way he was brought up. But at the same time, I have to assume that there's a obviously between you and I, Gidget, we have, this personable, more intimate,
we're besties.
Yeah.
I was going with besties, but whatever.
I think the chat tried to ship you, so I don't know, we'll see what happens.
But no, that is definitely your character likes to fight things. And my character likes to try to stop you from getting into fights and hurting yourself because you're important to the future, whatever that means at this point. And so my character's always probably going to be like, oh, Forrest, why'd you get into a fight? And you're going to be like, the thing fucking asked for it. That's a role-playing dynamic that you and I are going to have, which is totally fine because we're role-playing that. But if you as Handor were like, talking to things is stupid, all I'm going to do is roll my dice and kill anything that's in front of me, that's a difference than a character decision and just like a, ROLL min-max or rules lawyer, whatever player.
Yeah, I feel like I've done a semi-decent job of even though my dialogue with Orestes and Nyson hasn't been extensive, it's obvious. It's I think it's definitely it's been it puts to the point that my character has some disdain for them, and he'll continue to get along with them and travel with them and whatever. But at the same token, it's like, I'm just not a big fan of wasting my time and being fashionable or stealing or all of these things that he just wouldn't consider to be noble.
Well, here's the thing,
well,
though.
And that's furthering the story, though, by you having, like, this is my personality.
That's a character choice, too. You're making that decision as a character. You're not upset as Handor that this is that they're wasting your time. You've made a character that has that feels that way. Mm-hmm. That's embodying, like, you know what I mean? That is embodying that character and portraying that character.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I hope that I can continue to. I fear that when we first discussed this, or not even discussed this, but brought up the ideas of the types or role playing and types of. I can't remember when it was. It was early on in the weeks of before you even played the game, of the type of characters that people were, the rules Nazi or whatever else, right? Yeah. So I was so deathly afraid of being one of those people,
Yeah.
And even though I didn't know what they were or how to be,
how you would act that way.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do to become that, but I was so afraid to be like turn out.
I can tell you how to absolutely not ever become a rules lawyer, and that is to do is never read a book, never never level.
If you don't know the rules, you can't be a rules lawyer.
That is true.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
The logic is
show up to a game with a character that's got like 8 levels worth of XP banked and just be like, I don't know what to do with it.
I feel like you're talking about like 2 or 3 people that played in our home game.
My God, that Shadowrun game, some people were like half the XP spent than others.
Okay, when we were playing Shadowrun, I was rolling like 20 dice, and some of you were rolling like 4, and I'm like, have you leveled up your characters? And you guys are like, no. Why do you have so many dice? And I'm like, because I leveled my character. I'm not better at things. I'm just leveled. Like, it's.
I put the points in the skills.
I put some effort into
it puts
finishing
the points on the skills, or it gets the hose again.
When one person who hasn't leveled takes a shotgun to the chest at point blank range, and they're like, "Oh, my insides fall out."
Yeah.
And then the support doctor is standing there, and it's like, "Oh, sniper rifle to the dome, didn't hurt."
Yeah,
like,
that's
how? Like,
and
I leveled, man. It's fine.
That would be me. I would be the one that was like, oh, I took a shot. Ow, I think it didn't really hurt.
I think my favorite part of that Shadowrun game was like session 20 or something, when I finally got shot for the first time, and I had to figure out how to roll to soak a gunshot wound. I still have not been attacked more than like 4 times in a Shadowrun game ever.
Because the first 19 games where you took damage was self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
you
happens.
took more damage than the entire table combined. You never got shot once.
Hey.
Quick poll. Who's surprised that Kurt hurt himself more than anybody else?
When the game says I can double the effect of my Powerball, I'm gonna do it. I don't know. The rules are there, guys. The rules are there.
All right. Well, I think that is a really great place to kind of wrap up this topic for the night. Obviously, there are pros and cons to both sides, ROLE playing and ROLL playing. I think my comment on the whole thing is play the thing that makes you happy. If the rules make you happy, play the rules. Don't get in the way of the thespians. If you're a thespian, don't get mad when the rules people want to make sure everything's being done by the rules, and just have fun.
Don't be a
dick.
dick.
You're gonna find any table is some variation of the theme. Individual players will lean to one side or another, and it's gonna come into probably what we'll do next week, because I see that on our topic list here. Is it ultimately comes down to what each individual person wants to get out of it,
right?
And it's gonna vary, and so certain situations are going to lean towards one style or another. Just flow with it.
Yep. Yeah,
Go ahead,
Those
Ursula.
are the rules
find your
lawyers. Those
fun.
guys are jerks.
There
Well,
is room for rules lawyering.
I would say that
Every
Night
other
Sun is our local, our team's rules lawyer, but not to a douche degree. That's my opinion.
Okay. Playing with our history, I've had the experience of playing with different levels of rules lawyering, and
Right.
I wouldn't even say that Night Sun would be considered a rules lawyer when compared to some of the other ones we've played with. And
Just
that
rules
level
knowledgeable.
yeah, that like
He's read the book. You've read
there's
the
Night
book where
Sun's
the rest
level,
of us
which
haven't.
is there's Night Sun's level, which is like, hey, let's ask him for what the rules are on this because he's read the book and he's retained that knowledge, so he knows what's going on. He's not sitting there like, no, that's wrong because you're not doing it this way and you have to do this and roll this dice and it means this and that. And I've played with people who do that and it's like, dude, are you the GM? No, shut up.
Quick side note to add what Kurt you had said is Saturday is the Nerdcast and then Sunday is our game day.
Yeah, absolutely. Every Saturday, except when something unfortunately gets in the way, we have our podcast at 9 a.m. Every second Saturday, I almost said Tuesday. Second Saturday of the month is our live stream of our Dungeon World game, with our next episode being on July 14th at 9 a.m.
Yep.
And we will have our Sunday video game time tomorrow night, 4 p.m., and we will be playing the Sexy Brutale.
Yeah. So come check that out.
So Kurt, where can you find our information and send us information and things?
Yeah, if you'd like to contact the show, you can do so at pixelscandal@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter at pixelscandal. You can go to pixelscandal.com and look at our terribly ugly website. But it's got some information on there. I should probably update that. I'm going to update that.
I mean, that is kind of what you do for a living, so...
Look for updates on pixelscandal.com.
And if anything didn't make sense to you, or you would like us to go into more detail on something, or have questions,
yeah,
go
please.
nuts.
Yeah, send us a message, send us an email. We'll read it on the show, talk about it.
Send it to Handor at pixelscandal.com. That's probably not a real email address.
Nope,
But
it's
he'll
not.
answer all the questions. He's the technical one of us.
Yeah, pixelscandal@gmail.com. That's where you can contact us about any of your questions or concerns or anything.
Or if you just want to send your hate mail because Handor has offended you, then you just send it right over.
Yeah, I don't want hate mail that Gidget hates PBTA, though.
I'll take it. I don't care.
You know what?
Cool,
I'll take it. We'll read your hate mail. Send us your hate mail.
Yeah, send us your hate mail.
If it's
We'll read
racist
it
or
too.
any... hold on. Send us... hang on. Send us your frustrated gaming emails. Please do not send us rants about any about race or
Politics
religions or
anything?
politics.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that.
Well, on that note, Handor, did you
Thanks, Irish Shaman.
did you write us an outro?
Ayashman? I can't pronounce that.
Was it me? I was supposed to do that?
Yashman?
I mean, I feel like the outro has always been your responsibility.
Did you write
I know,
the
but
outro?
I was. No, I didn't.
Were you out sick?
Fuck, man, have you not written an outro yet?
All right,
This
and
is
with that,
episode
This is-
10.
Farewell.
This is a great running gag. I love it. All right, thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye. I love you.